Hi everyone. We are continuing on today with lecture 3. It is called Intro to Biochemistry Physiology. Last we spoke, we were talking about enzymes, and we'll continue with their function a little bit and go a little bit more in depth into that. And we'll move on a little bit more so into the basics of metabolism, ATP, how ATP is regulated, and then we'll begin talking about aerobic and anaerobic metabolism. Okay, that being said, let's get moving. Okay, so let's define what enzymes are. Enzymes, we talked about this last time, are proteins that are specialized to act as catalysts in biological reactions. Again, catalysts speed up metabolic reactions. So a catalyst speeds up a metabolic reaction. We need them in order to be efficient human beings. Okay? Their ability to act as catalysts depend upon their protein configuration, so their shape. Okay? All right, well, let's talk about how they work. So enzymes cannot change the equilibrium of a reaction, but they can lower what's called the energy of activation. Okay, so let's define what the energy of activation is. It is the amount of energy that is required to bring all of the molecules in one mole of a substance at a given temperature to the transition state at the top of the activation barrier. Okay, so that's kind of a heavy definition right there. So we're going to kind of explain what that means in the next slide. And right here, this means molecule. Sorry, not mole. One molecule of a substance, okay? All right. So here we go. Energy of activation. Let's kind of define what that is. So what if we had something that's called lowered energy of activation? This makes it easier for the reactions to take place between two entities, okay? Something that's called a transition state. Here we can create new bonds between two different molecules. We could put some energy into a reaction for the reaction to take place. We overcome that barrier, and then the reaction takes place and progresses much more easily. Okay, so we'll kind of go over this again. So if we have something that's called lowered energy of activation, it makes it easier for reactions to take place between two entities, and enzymes can help do that. Okay, and what is the transition state? Here we create new bonds between two different molecules. We can put some energy in the front end to the reaction in order for that reaction to take place. So once we overcome that barrier, the reaction takes place and progresses much more easily. Okay, so let's go over this diagram really quick. Okay, so when we talk about energy of activation right here, so before we continue on the process of a reaction, you want to put a little bit of sometimes energy, so this is potential energy on this side, a little energy into the reaction in order to get past this state, in order for us to then carry out the reaction very easily. Because then look, the amount of potential energy we need to actually carry out that reaction completely tapers off, and then we easily can then carry out that reaction. Okay, so sometimes we need to put a little energy into an equation or into a reaction in order for it to then progress very smoothly and efficiently afterwards. Okay, so let's make a summary statement really quick. So the transitional state is a condition in which the probability is very high that a chemical bond will be made or broken to form the product. So things are pretty much stable in one condition, then you'll bring them to a point where they're in some sort of a comfort zone. At that point, a reaction can take place between different molecules or atoms. Okay, so I'll say that again. So what this really means are things are stable in one condition, then you will bring them to a point where they're in some sort of a comfort zone. At that point, a reaction can take place between the different molecules or the atoms. And different types of reactions may either require a bond to be made or broken. So depending on what type of metabolism, if we're breaking down energy or we are storing energy, sometimes reactions require us to break apart a bond between two entities or to make a bond in order for a reaction to take place. Okay, so now let's talk about this graph right here really quick. So we talked about last class that even if we didn't have an enzyme, we would still carry out a reaction. However, it would just progress very slowly, okay? However, with enzymes, that helps catalyze a reaction, it speeds it up, right? So it actually takes a lot less energy for us to use. So we got free energy here. on the y-axis, and we got the x-axis right here. We got the progress of a reaction. So if we didn't, this is showing us a catalyzed reaction, which is the dark line right here. So if we didn't have an enzyme, the reaction would still take place, as you can see, to get to products, reactants to products. However, look how much free energy it would take. It would take up a lot of energy for us to get through that reaction and then to get to the product. So we wouldn't be that efficient, and these processes would take a much longer time sometimes, okay? Or it's just costing us a lot of energy, which is what we don't want. We want to conserve energy the most we can, so to use it where we need. Now here, a catalyst reaction right here, we have a reactant, we use an enzyme, and then boom, we only put in a little bit, sometimes a little bit of energy for it to carry out very smoothly, and we still get to product much more efficiently. Okay, so continuing on with enzymes, let's talk about what a rate-limiting step is, and I'm going to give you that definition. When several steps occur in a reaction, the overall rate is determined by the step or the steps with the highest activation of energy. So sometimes this is called the flux generating step. So the slowest enzyme in a reaction or a metabolic pathway dictates the overall speed of the reaction. That makes sense, right? So the slowest enzyme in a reaction actually dictates the overall speed of the reaction, okay? So sometimes this is called the flux generating step. This is the step where the most energy is required to overcome that part of the reaction. We need to put in more energy to get through that sticking point, so to say, to overcome that portion, and then the reaction can carry out much more efficiently, okay? This step is usually regulated by hormones or enzymes that have sometimes special features. And again, this is the step that's the most difficult to get through of any sort of metabolic reaction. So a rate limiting step is the step that's the most difficult to get through in a metabolic reaction.